Okay, let's go to the issue that you have raised in connection with your book. And that is that, effectively you said the 9/11 Commission screwed up. And it's screwed up because there's information out there that shows that one of the terrorists, the ringleader in fact, whose name is Atta, name came up in intelligence before 9/11. And this intelligence was ignored, number one. Number two, the 9/11 Commission ignored the fact that the intelligence was available. Can you explain to us a little something about that?
Yeah, back in 2000, the military had an intelligence operation that they called Able Danger. It's gotten some press and some currency lately. Able Danger was, as you described it, a data mining operation, which means they would go to public sources of information, collate them, scan them, and then put together profiles and factual scenarios and conclusions. In doing so, the two military officers who conducted it, very reputable officers by everybody's estimate, say that in the mid-2000 they identified by name and possibly by photo Muhammad Atta, who was the chief architect and ringleader of the hijackings. My complaint against the 9/11 Commission is that both one of those senior officers and others went to the 9/11 Commission staff prior to them finalizing and releasing their report, gave them this information, and the 9/11 Commission decided, without any investigation, that this was historically insignificant. Very interesting phrase that they used. And in their report, which was published about 10 days after the staff members interviewed the Able Danger officers, we can't even find a footnote referring to Able Danger. They certainly didn't interview the 80 people who worked in Able Danger. So I think it was a huge oversight, a huge gap, because I can't think of a more relevant fact for the 9/11 inquiry than the possible identification of the ringleader a year before, when members of the military unit said they were trying to get this information to FBI agents, but they were prohibited from the military authorities from having that liaison, having that information transferred. But the 9/11 Commission completely ignores it, and we don't even find a footnote in their report, and we have them talking about tunnels and nuclear reactors and everything else. That is the most relevant part of their inquiry, which they've not addressed.
Why do you think the 9/11 Commission did that other than self-protection? I found in reading the 9/11 report that they were highly critical of you, by the way, with respect to your technological capabilities. But they weren't as critical, it seems to me, of the other agencies with respect to their intelligence gathering capabilities. For example, the FBI put out a notice to get 2 of the 20 conspirators with respect to 9/11 that didn't really reach anybody until just about 9/11 happened. Now that wasn't the FBI's fault, really. It was the CIA's fault. Mm-hmm. The CIA had these 2 people who were living out in San Diego and was tracing them around the Mideast and lost them. Now, the CIA got its knuckles rapped for that, but generally speaking, the 9/11 Commission says, hey, Freeh, you know, and you say in your book our technology is not as good as what a 12-year-old have, but I don't find the 9/11 Commission picking on the CIA for its technology, which I don't think is so super. We had a gentleman whose name was Berkowitz on this program, who's a RAND consultant, and he said the CIA technology is 4 or 5 years behind. Why did they pick on you and then sort of let the Army intelligence off, which is what they did with this data mining, because Army intelligence had the data mining.
Well, I don't know why they let anybody off or didn't let anybody off. I think that's that's really a conclusion. I do know that the information on Able Danger got to the Commission. It was 10 days before the report was published. So either it was inconvenient, or they had closed up their investigative shop, or for whatever reason didn't want to deal with, again, what incredibly is the most relevant fact. I can't think of a more relevant fact with respect to September 11th than whether or not someone in the government had identified one of the hijackers a year before and tried to get that information to the FBI. So, you know, how they explain not even footnoting that in their report, that footnotes everything else, by the way, is really incredible, and I think a great disservice to the people who relied on that report. As far as the FBI is concerned, well, you know, yeah, we had an absolutely abysmal technology, not because we didn't know it, because we couldn't get the funding for it, which I talk about in the book. We asked for $132 million the last year I was there for technical counterterrorism funding. We got about $4 million from the Congress. Nobody wants to talk about that now. So, yeah, we had a very backward, abysmal technology. But that's not what happened with respect to the causation of September 11th. What may be more relevant to the causation of September 11th is if, in fact, the Army, by data mining, identified Muhammad Atta in 2000 and tried to get that information to the FBI and was prevented. That seems to be a lot more relevant and a lot more critical, and yet the 9/11 Commission ignores that. And we have a commission chairman who, you know, who will go before the cameras and talk about anything, but has not adequately addressed the basic responsibilities of his job.
You know what I think part of it is, if I could give a reason? These guys are sitting over here data mining. That's, just to go through it with the audience again, that's you at home playing with Google. That's data mining. And right. you can find anything on Google. I bet you those people who are data mining, had Google been invented then, could have found everything they found on Google. And don't you think there's a prejudice in the intelligence community against what people would call open source gathering, and that that's part of the problem? And there's another prejudice that when you sit with Google and you come up with names of U.S. citizens, oh, hey, you can't do that because now we're doing research and we're invading their privacy. I mean, this is all nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, I think those are very, very good observations. You know, when I was a young FBI agent in New York City, we had this elaborate, you know, counterintelligence apparatus that we maintained against the Russians, the KGB, who were spying out of the embassy here, the UN mission. And the Chinese intelligence agents would be sitting in the reading room of the New York Library on 42nd Street, copying critical data and sending it back, you know, in pouches to Beijing, to the intelligence services. So there is a prejudice about open source
and not only
data mining.
When you go and read about this particular operation, it also turns out, I don't know if you're how familiar you are with this detail. You have to take my word for it. The guy who did it, he came up with all this stuff, including Atta's name, apparently. I mean, I don't think Atta's name has been proved, but apparently he came up with it. And someone said to him, "Hey, you can't have that database because it's got names of private citizens." So he deleted the whole thing's been lost.
Yeah, I've read that.
It's really it's nuts.
But you know, whether it was lost or not lost, whether he came up with the name or not, you know, why doesn't the 9/11 Commission footnote it? Give us a footnote, you know, in your huge, you know, detailed report. And the fact that they don't, I think, is very significant.
Would you, if you were redoing the FBI system, still screwed up? Talking about 9/11 being screwed up, Commission screwed up. The FBI system is still screwed up. Would you put a data mining system in today now, knowing what you did along with whatever is going to happen? Is anything ever going to happen with the FBI's?
Well, yeah. I mean, with the resources they've gotten and with some expertise that they never had, eventually they will get to where they need to be. But I think data mining has to be and needs to be a critical part of that, and should be a critical part of any intelligence information collection process, which is, as you said, it's the Google-esque, you know, way of understanding our world. Very vital to conducting intelligence operations.
Well, we've come to the end, so I want to ask you again: did the 9/11 Commission screw up by not looking at data mining information that showed perhaps one of the co-conspirators was known to the United States in 2000? The answer is?
It's a huge deficiency, absolutely. And the fact that they still take the position that this was historically insignificant is ridiculous.
Louie Freeh?
Jim, thank you.
Hey,
Good
thanks
luck.
a lot for coming by.